Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. ATP Cincinnati Open 2022 draw preview and prediction video. We're going to get through it. Before we do, remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. Of course, if you're a podcast listener or watcher, remember to leave a rating or review, especially on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much. I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The good news is Rafael Nadal has made his return, or will be making his return, in Cincinnati. So the number 2 seed in the tournament will be Nadal, and he makes his return after that abdominal injury he had against Taylor Fritz in the quarterfinals of Wimbledon, had to pull out the semi-finals against Kyrgios, and then we haven't seen him since. So we were supposed to see him at the Rogers Cup, and he pulled out, not particularly last minute, but pretty late on. Now he is going to be playing in Cincinnati. From what we know, he is in the draw. He's also said he's going to be coming to Cincinnati to play. So unless something extreme happens, he will be there. He will be competing. The bad news, though, is that, of course, Novak Djokovic, who's been having issues with getting entry into Canada and the US to play tennis anyway, will not be present. And that seems to be the case with the US Open. I'll probably do a separate video because there seems to be a changing of the rulings for the US. We're not quite sure exactly what it is yet, if I'm not mistaken, but there may be some hope for him for the US Open, but he won't be here in Cincinnati. Of course, the tournament will be playing from Monday onwards, so we'll be starting on Monday and will be for the whole week. It's the Western and Southern Open as well, it's called, so sponsorships play a huge part in tournaments, as you know. Right, let's get into this then. Daniil Medvedev has a bye, so he will be pretty happy with that, although he got a bye last week and then ended up losing to Nick Kyrgios in the Rogers Cup. So we'll see how he finds getting a bye. Now, sometimes getting a bye isn't always the best thing for a player. For him, it wouldn't have been too bad as he'd won Los Cabos the week before. To have the bye, it wouldn't have affected his loss against Kyrgios. Kyrgios has played really well. Kyrgios, of course, then fell, though, to Hubert Hurkacz, and they're playing the semi-finals of the Rogers Cup today. Hurkacz is in there. Ruud, Dan Evans as well is in there. So there's some fantastic players on show still, and some interesting players as well. A lot of people wouldn't have expected those guys to get through, honestly. And Karina Buster, of course, is going to be playing in a semi. So some interesting people that maybe weren't expecting or weren't expected to progress. So great to see that. Let's get through the rest of this, though. Botic van der Zandschulp versus Maxime Cressy. That's a really good match. That's a really good match. Maxime Cressy's, he's so exciting because he has that grab and dash type mentality with the serve and volley, which, let's be honest, hardly anyone on tour does it anymore. That is just the crux of the matter. It really is. And it's great to see. It genuinely is. And of course, it's not the type of style that is common. So it does have its flaws at times. But generally, he's pretty good. I know he struggled against Monfils. And, Monfils ended up beating him, I think, in the Rogers Cup recently, which is a good win for Monfils. But one that's expected. He's a very good returner. Monfils, fantastic at passing people as well. And, beat him in the round of 32 and 2 tiebreakers. So really, really tight. Tight 2 sets. And Cressy does have a lot of tiebreakers and just didn't come out on top, but that can happen. Van der Zandschulp then and Maxime Cressy. Van der Zandschulp has a very good all-round game. Cressy's been in up and down form. I have a feeling he might be able to do something here, though, so I'm going to go Cressy. Tommy Paul, who had a very good tournament at the Rogers Cup, beat Carlos Alcaraz as well. Great win against Jensen Brooksby, an All-American affair. I'm going to go for Tommy Paul to carry on his good form. I feel like maybe he's hit a little bit of a patch here, so let's see how he gets on against Brooksby, who is a more grinding type of player, someone who wants to sit back from the back of the court and literally grind you down. He's someone who is looking to induce errors from the opponent, someone who is not necessarily looking to hit winners, but force errors out of the person he's playing against. And we shall see. We shall see. Denis Shapovalov versus Dimitrov. Shapovalov has not been in very good form, and he's unseeded at this tournament. He is pummeling or dropping big time through the rankings. Dimitrov is going to win for me. I just think Shapovalov is just way too inconsistent right now. His form has dipped dramatically. This, for me, unless something happens, this is a bit of a write-off for a year. Apart from the Australian Open, where he made the quarterfinals, and the win against Rafa at Rome, there's not really much else to write home about, honestly. And I can't see him doing much at the US Open, if I'm being completely frank. Taylor Fritz versus Sebastian Baez. Fritz on the hard courts against the clay court specialist. Baez should come through. But Baez is dangerous and he's a good player, so Fritz will have to be on his game. But big serving, American and power baseliner should get through that. Nick Kyrgios versus Alejandro David Fekina, the dogged Spaniard, a former Wimbledon junior champion, and of course someone who is seen as more of a clay court specialist, but can play on all surfaces, has the game to do so. Nick Kyrgios, though, has been in great form. He did have some, I think, back stiffness against Hurkacz. Did manage to take a set off him, though, and the first two sets were tiebreakers, so he could have ended up coming out of that 7-6, 7-6. Instead, went to a third set, got breadsticked. I don't think that's necessarily a fair reflection of how he's been playing recently. So I would say as long as he's feeling fully fit, he should get through that. But it's hard to say. I think he will play it. A lot of people think that he may rest or pull out. I would imagine he will try and play it unless the stiffness is really bad. We could see a late withdrawal from him potentially. But at the moment, from what I know, he's still in. Albert Ramos Vinolas versus a qualifier. We don't know who the qualifier is going to be, so I'm going to have to go Ramos Vinolas. Rublev has a bye, and Tsitsipas has a bye too. Dan Evans versus Filip Krajinovic. Dan Evans has been in great form, of course, made the semi-finals of the Rogers Cup, and he could make the final. He's playing this evening, so I'm going to go with him to carry on his good form. The big question mark is going to be how physically is he going to feel after having a good run and also playing a lot of tennis this week. For Krajinovic, he had a really good grass court swing making the final of Queens. Didn't do particularly well at Wimbledon, but he will be looking to have a little bit of a run in this tournament and also the US Open. I just feel Dan Evans might be a bit too tricky for him, but we'll see. Azan Karatsev versus Nakashima hasn't been able to replicate that form from Australian Open 2021 Karatsev since, really. Nakashima, I'm going to go to win at home, but that's a 50-50 for me. Alex Molcan versus Diego Schwartzman. Good matchup. I think Schwartzman's too experienced, though, too solid. I think he'll get through that. Matteo Berrettini, who lost early on against Alex de Minaur, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it? In the Rogers Cup. Sorry, against Pablo Carreño Busta, even in straight sets. 6-3, 6-2. There's no harm in that, really, because Pablo Carreño Busta is a very good hardcourt player. He's very underrated. Of course, made the semi-finals of the US Open in the past, and he's a good player, a very good player on the hardcourts. Prefers it to any of the other surfaces. So what I would say is that Francis TFO, though, has been in pretty good form. It's a tough one to call. It really is, because TFO has been in good form and he likes the hard courts. Talented player. The Canadian Open, he lost to Taylor Fritz in 3 sets, tight 3 sets as well. I'm going to go Berrettini, but not with a lot of confidence. Khachanov, Korda. I'm going to go for Korda to beat Khachanov, but on a hard court, I think the favorite is Khachanov. Silver medalist at the Tokyo Olympics last year. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. And I feel like he prefers the hard courts to any other surface. I could be wrong. This is a replay of the Wimbledon matchup last year, which was very seesaw, both players losing serve, etc. So I think it's going to be another close one, but I'm going to go with Korda to win. He's a wild card. His performances have been very up and down this year. Got a good win against Alcaraz earlier in the year, but then has lost to some very subpar opponents, genuinely. Opponents that you'd expect him to come through. And if I'm being honest, I was expecting him to be in and around the top 30 by this point. He's not quite there yet. Some people take a little bit longer to develop, and I expect him to be around the top 15 at least at some point in his career, but we'll see. Benjamin Bonzi versus John Isner. Going to go Isner for me. Just going to serve way too big. Hurkacz has a bye, as does Casper Ruud. Both gone deep at the Rogers Cup this week, and we'll see how they get on. Ben Shelton has a qualifier. I'll go Shelton. He's an exciting young American. Stan Wawrinka versus Andy Murray. Battle of the 3-time Grand Slam champions. I'm going to go Murray to win. I just think Stan Wawrinka has probably declined a bit more than Murray. So I'll go with Murray to outlast Wawrinka and probably just be a bit too physical for the Swiss. Holger Rune versus Cam Norrie. Going to go Norrie. He's had a good result, anyway, at Los Cabos, or even at Los Cabos, making the final. Lost to Felix in Canada at the Rogers Cup, and Felix got revenge after the loss in Los Cabos, beating Cam in straight sets. But I'm going to go with Cam Norrie. I think Cam Norrie can do it and beat Holger Rune. I think Holger Rune's still working out how to play on other surfaces that aren't clay. And he's still very young, very talented, but not someone who I expect to make waves yet on the hard court scene. Cilic to beat the qualifier. Don't know who it's going to be, but I'll go for him. Emil Ruusuvuori versus JJ Wolf. I'm going to go Ruusuvuori. It's a very tough one, though, to call. JJ Wolf is solid on a hard court. McDonald's is another wild card, but I'm going to go for Basilashvili to come through that. Alcaraz has a bye, as does Felix. Bublik, Alex de Minaur. That could be a close one, but de Minaur's been in some good form. So I'm going to go for the Australian. And PCB versus Kecmanovic. Now, PCB, as I said, made the semi-final of the Rogers Cup this week. We'll see whether he's able to make the final or potentially even win the tournament. I'm going to go for PCB. Sinner's got a qualifier. I'll go for Sinner. And RBA versus Cerundolo. I'm going to go RBA. Kyrgios has a qualifier, so for Kyrgios, and then Nadal at the bottom of the draw. I'll pick him, of course, as he has a bye. Medvedev versus Cressy. Medvedev is not a good matchup for Cressy because he's such a good returner, for one, and for two, he's a great passer as well. So Cressy will come to the net, but Medvedev finds fantastic angles, great precision as well with his passing shots. I think he should have too much. Tommy Paul, Dimitrov. I'm actually going to go Tommy Paul to cause a bit of an upset against Dimitrov. Taylor Fritz, Kyrgios. Now, this is a really tough one for Kyrgios, I have to say, because Kyrgios will, if he's not on his A game, if he's not 100% fit, this could easily be a loss. I think it'll probably go 3 sets, but if Kyrgios is playing how we've seen him play recently, he's mentally dialed in, he's fully fit, he should beat Taylor Fritz. He should have too much firepower for the American. Albert Ramos Vinolas versus Rublev. I want to go Rublev. Tsitsipas versus Dan Evans. This is an interesting one because Jack Draper, another Brit, beat Tsitsipas in straight sets the other day. Now, Tsitsipas's format has been very up and down, and more down, I would say, than up than he'd like. I'm going to go for Tsitsipas to beat Dan Evans, just because I feel, one, Evans will be a little bit worn from this week, and two, I think they both have one-handers. I think Tsitsipas will enjoy being able to try and go into the forehand into Dan Evans' backhand. He'll try and slice a lot on the backhand, Evans, but Tsitsipas will be able to pick it up off the floor on the forehand side, and he'll be okay, I think. We'll see, though. It's a very, very tough one to call because Tsitsipas's form has not been where we would expect, or I think where he would like it to be either. Nakashima, Schwartzman. I'm going to go Schwartzman to just have a bit too much experience against Nakashima and just induce a lot of errors from the American. Berrettini, Korda, going to go Berrettini to find a bit of form, although his form has not been great on the hard courts in the best of 3 format from what I know. John Isner versus Hurkacz. Hurkacz is in good form. Isner's in good form. I'm going to go Hurkacz, though. Casper Ruud, Ben Shelton, going to go Ruud. Murray, Norrie. Now, Murray is going to have to go big with the backhand up the line, you'd imagine. Or even cross-court to a forehand of Norrie. A forehand to a backhand of Norrie. Not sure how much Murray's going to enjoy that. I'm going to go Murray to cause the upset, but not with a lot of confidence. Cilic, Rusevori. Gonna go with Cilic. Basilishvili versus Alcaraz. Gonna go Alcaraz. And Felix versus Alex de Minaur. I'm gonna go with Alex de Minaur to cause the upset against Felix. PCB versus Sinner. I think at this stage, PCB is just too experienced on a hard court. I think he'll have too much in the bag in terms of just know-how. He clearly is confident on this surface. I don't think Sinner... I think he's pretty confident on a hard court, but I don't think he's naturally as comfortable on it as he is maybe on a clay court, even though he has won tournaments, of course, on a hard court. Actually, no. I'm going to completely reverse my decision. I'm going to go with Sinner to cause the upset. I just feel that it's a matter of time until he clicks on the hard courts this year, because he has had such great results on the grass and had some really good results on the clay recently as well. Surely it's just a matter of time. RBA to go through, then Nadal to beat Kyrgios for me. Medvedev to beat Tommy Paul. Kyrgios to beat Rublev. I think Rublev will get frustrated against Kyrgios. Tsitsipas, Schwartzman. Going to go Tsitsipas. Berrettini, Hurkacz. Going to go Hurkacz. Ruud, Murray. Going to go Ruud. Cilic, Alcaraz. Going to go Alcaraz. Alex de Minaur versus Sinner. Does Alex de Minaur have enough to beat Jannik Sinner? They've met before. Sinner won. I'm going to go for Sinner again. Nadal to beat RBA. Medvedev, Kyrgios. Again, so this would be a replay of the second round match at the Rogers Cup where Kyrgios won. I'm going to go for... It's just so much hinges on Kyrgios' fitness. If he's fit, I think he beats him again. It might be a close... It'll probably be another close one. If not, then Medvedev, right? I mean, he'll just eat you alive. He's a number one for a reason. I'm going to go Kyrgios. Tsitsipas, Hurkacz, going to go Hurkacz. I think he just absolutely loves these hard courts. I think he loves them. Ruud, Alcaraz. I'm going to go Alcaraz just. Sinner, Nadal. Now, this is what I'm going to look, Rafa fans watching, listening. I just think he's had a bit of a layoff. I think Sinner might be able to cause him issues. I'm going to go Sinner to win. So then my semi-finals are Nick Kyrgios versus Hubert Hurkacz and Carlos Alcaraz versus Jannik Sinner. Now, Hurkacz beat Kyrgios this week at the Rogers Cup. Do I go for Hurkacz to win again, or do I go for Kyrgios to get revenge? I'm going to go for Hurkacz to win again. Then Alcaraz, Sinner. Sinner's beaten Alcaraz in the last two matches they've played, once in a mug on the clay and once at Wimbledon on the grass. Can he make it a perfect three and beat Alcaraz on all three surfaces this year and 3 matches in a row as well? I'm going to go... Yes, I think he might have a bit of a mental edge now, Sinner. So I'm going to go Hurkacz, Sinner final. And I'm going to go Hurkacz to win the final. Too much with his serve volleying. I think he's playing some really confident tennis. I'm going to Hurkacz to win Cincinnati. He might just win the Rogers Cup instead and not win Cincinnati at all. But that's what I'm going with. Let me know your predictions. I've gone pretty left field with my WTA and ATP ones. And I'm more looking at kind of recent form and also the matchups. I just feel as well that at the moment, a lot of the top seeds are not really coming through. And I feel like that might continue. Guys, well, remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're a podcast listener or watcher, remember to leave a rating or review, especially if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. Really does help us out. Thank you. We really do appreciate it. Also, do check out our memberships on YouTube if you want to support the channel even further, or to become a Patreon as well. There is some exclusive content that I do upload onto there as well. But really, it's just to help us give you guys the best content possible, because it is me and I've built it from the ground up, and I want to give you guys the best content possible. Without you guys supporting us, we wouldn't be able to continue doing this and also continue giving you guys better content. Thank you so much, guys. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you on the next video.